R&B diva, Chaka Khan. She's up next. Let's talk. What's up, everybody? How you doing out there? Thank you guys for tuning in over here to another episode of Pepe's Point of View. I'm your host, your R&B historian, Pepe. Welcome, you new viewers, returning viewers, and you subscribers. Thank you guys so much for your support. I definitely appreciate it. We're talking about R&B diva Chaka Khan. That's right. Get that diva on the phone. Call her up. Call her peeps up. Let her know that we're talking about her over here. And you don't want to miss this one. I promise you don't. Usually, I kind of hold back a little bit and not try to say too much, if you understand what I'm saying. But today, I have a whole lot I want to cover with Chaka Khan. So I don't know how long this video is going to be, and I'm definitely not concerned about the time. I'm not concerned about the length at all. Whew. So Chaka Khan, I've talked about over here quite a few times, okay? And I did the first video covering her. I talked about her first album, her first solo album, Chaka. And I promise you that is an awesome album. If you have not heard Chaka Khan's solo debut album released in 1978 titled Chaka, the one that has I'm Every Woman on it, I promise you, you want to listen to that. You will like that album. So I did a video on that, and I said I was going to get back around to Chaka Khan, and now I finally have. Sometimes, I have to be in my mood. I really and truly do. Basically, what I do over here, if you're new to the channel, I do music reviews, okay? Every now and then, I promise you, I will dish out the dirt on who dropped, kicked who in these R&B streets, literally and figuratively speaking. Occasionally, it only depends on if it pertains to the album, so to speak. But if it's like doesn't pertain to the album, I try not to, tackle those things too often. But trust me, I can do it if I really wanted to. Anywho, but we're talking about Chaka Khan and we're talking about her albums, and that's pretty much what I do. I just sit back and I listen to the music. It's what I enjoy doing. And then from that, I just pretty much ask my questions, kind of get a feel, and then that's what I do. We talk over here. It's not a monologue, it's a dialogue. Talk back to me, all right? Well, anyway, so what do we know about Chaka Khan? Because I promise you guys, I try to leave it up to you guys to go out. That's my intentions, for you guys to go out and listen to these divas or the Soulmen that I cover. But I realize, sometimes people say, hey, I'm watching your channel. I want to hear from you. I don't necessarily want to go out and look for it myself. I want to hear from you. I need to trust you like that. So I understand that. So let's talk about Yvette Marie Stevens, better known by her stage name, Chaka Khan. Well, she's definitely a singer. And did you not know? I didn't know this. I didn't know this at all. And that's the reason why we need to talk about this. Chaka Khan is considered to be the queen of funk. What? I didn't know that. So that's an issue that I want to talk about today. As I say, usually I kind of hold back from asking particular questions and tackling things over here because I understand that bigger channel watch the smaller channel to get ideas and information and then try to put it off, like it was their own and they came up with it today. But right now, I'm definitely not going to spare anything. I'm just going to let it all hang out with this Chaka Khan thing because, that's just what I want to do right now. But she's known as the queen of funk. I didn't know that. And of course, her career has spanned more than 5 decades. And of course, it started out in the 1970s. She was a lead vocalist of the funk band group Rufus. Okay, she's known for hits with that group like "Tell Me Something Good," "Sweet Thing," "Do You Love What You Feel," and of course their last big hit, "Ain't Nobody." Of course, Chaka Khan went on to become a solo artist, and we know her from songs like "I'm Every Woman," that of course was covered by Whitney Houston and was made a mega hit again. We're aware of her version of "Sweet Thing" that Mary J. Blige recorded of her "What's the 411" album in 1992. And we all know that Chaka Khan definitely does not like other singers covering her music. She has another song she's known for, "What You Gonna Do For Me," better known for the songs "I Feel For You" and "Through the Fire." And of course, she's collaborated with other artists throughout the years. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, she was on the Quincy Jones Secret Garden album in 1989. That was a big album for Quincy Jones back in 1989. Secret Garden, Chaka Khan, and what's his name? Can't think of the guy's name right now. But anyway, Ray Charles had a big R&B hit with a song called "I'll Be Good to You." Okay, that's in the top of my head. Sorry about that. But anyway, so what ends up happening, for those of you who don't know, Chaka Khan parted ways, but not really, from the group Rufus in 1978. She decided that she wanted to go solo. And of course, just like any artist who decides to go solo, you got to understand that there's definitely probably some creative and financial differences going on within that group probably at the time. Not only that, but Chaka Khan found herself being the face of the group Rufus. So she was pushed into the forefront. And of course, being pushed into the forefront, being the lead vocalist of that group, then it's obviously that she would eventually embark on a solo career. Now, there have been talks in the past that when she did decide to go solo, Rufus, the band, and oh gosh, you guys making me tired already. I must say allegedly. Oh gosh, it's alleged. She, like I said, there were some differences in the group. Now, I do recall, and a lot of speculations about an altercation that happened between Chaka Khan, her then either boyfriend or husband, and Andre Fisher. Now, Andre Fisher was a member of the group. Those of you who don't know who Andre Fisher is also a gentleman who was once married to Natalie Cole. I think he married Natalie Cole somewhere around the Unforgettable album. He was married to her at one point in time. But anywho, so long story short story long, Andre ends up getting kicked out of the group because of this altercation, physical altercation that he had with Chaka Khan's then boyfriend or husband or something like that. Anyway, and she was like, "Forget that. I'm not sticking around. He got to go." So he left. But I don't recall too much. I haven't followed Chaka Khan's career like that in order to get a feel of what she, how she's thought about her career throughout the years. I haven't followed her like that. I never really followed her in, any of the magazines, and I haven't watched a lot of interviews. But having said that, I do know that Chaka Khan has stated once before that another reason why she left Rufus, and I don't know why I find this to be funny every time this comes up, but she supposedly has gone on a record as saying that she left Rufus because she was, tired of singing awful songs. And I was like, what songs in Rufus are awful to her? So like, what songs in the Rufus catalog is she saying she doesn't like? And Chaka Khan, she has no problem voicing her opinion. We're going to talk about that as well, her being opinionated as far as her career is concerned. But anyway, so Chaka Khan leaves. She leaves the group. She goes solo. She releases that woman's anthem, right? "I'm Every Woman," and it is a smash, right? We love it today. That's like the song that wakes up the crowd. Whenever Chaka Khan is going to sing that song, people love it, right? But see, here's another thing about Chaka that I also find interesting. Chaka Khan is, well, let me rewind that because I want to stay with the program over here. So when Chaka Khan leaves, the thing that I find interesting about her move, like her transition out of the group Rufus in a roundabout sort of way, is that when she teamed up with Turkish music producer by the name of Arif Mardin, the thing that I like most about that is the fact that Arif decides for whatever reason, and I think it's brilliant, but I also think it's the thing that probably hindered her career, and that is he kept her within the sounds of Rufus. Now, the sounds of Rufus is disco and what is it? Disco and R&B? Is that right? I'm trying to remember the music style of Rufus. I think it's like disco, soul, and R&B. Rufus, right? So he keeps her kind of like in that style. And he doesn't alienate the Rufus audience from Chaka Khan. It's not like, I don't think it's like they're trying to expand her sound or her audience or anything like that. They stay true to that formula. It works. But as I said before, I think it's the thing that also kind of hindered her career. Whew. So who is Arif Mardin? I'm glad that you asked. As I said, he's a Turkish American music producer. Now he has worked with a lot of people like the Rascals, Bee Gees. Y'all know I love the Bee Gees over here. I love Hall & Oates. I got my Hall & Oates music over there. I even have my Bee Gees music. I have Anita Baker. I have Aretha Franklin. I love Dionne Warwick, Shaka, of course, Carly Simon. I might need to talk about her. Nora Jones. So he has worked with a lot of, well, actually a lot of divas, Roberta Flack, Bette Midler. So he has worked with a lot of divas, okay, and has had a lot of success. Diana Ross, he's produced for Phil Collins. Like, as I said, the list just goes on and on and on. David Bowie. So just to think about that alone, you know that Chaka Khan is in good hands with Arif. She's definitely is that. So now it's my theory. This is just my own opinion about it. Having listened to Chaka Khan's Chaka album that was released in 1978, and with the understanding that Rufus did not want her to leave the group, or the record company for that matter. So they definitely kept a tight grip on Chaka, okay? Now, this is just my theory. Because of that, I get to feel that somehow, somewhere, somebody was like, listen here, don't promote that album. I'm still saying it today. Somebody somewhere told them to pull the plug. After that I'm Every Woman album, song hit, I don't know. I get to feel that Chaka Khan, after that, this is just my opinion, after that, somebody somewhere was like, nah, we ain't touching Chaka. I do. I just feel that way, and I don't know why. And when I say that, it's because Chaka was you think Chaka was disinterested in Rufus at the time she left? And of course, there are some albums that she didn't show up on, period, as when Rufus was recording, because by then she was definitely like, I am done with this group in a roundabout sort of way, so what is it? I think it's something Sealed in Red. There's an album, Rufus album. It's called Red something. I can't think of it right now. I'm sorry, you guys. I know it's terrible of me not to be able to remember the name of the album, but it's something about Red. I know that that's the name of the album. I think it's Sealed in Red. That she definitely, I think, did not show up on. I don't think she showed up on the album Party Till You Broke. And then there's the Camouflage album. I'm not quite sure. She was there, but then, of course, she wasn't there, sort of. So somewhere around the time of 1981, Chaka Khan definitely was like, I don't need to be in Rufus by the time 1981 hit. Not only that, by the time 1981 hit, Chaka Khan was already in her third solo project. So in 1978, you have Chaka. 1980, you have Naughty. In 1981, she was well on her way working on the album What You Gonna Do For Me. So as I said again, by the time she comes in 1981, and then with Rufus, it's interesting. Like I said, it's all over the place with Rufus. It's like Rufus releases 2 albums in 1981, and then Chaka released an album in 1981. So let's stop right there. I think that's a good place for us to stop in this Chaka Khan story. And the reason why I think it's a good place to stop is because, do you see kind of like how Chaka Khan's career is bouncing from one group to from Rufus to Chaka, Rufus to Chaka, and it's kind of confusing if you really think about it, because she's still, is tied to this group. So a person such as myself, when you're listening to Chaka's catalog, for sometimes you can kind of get confused. Is this Chaka or is this Rufus? And of course, we know from being fans of Rufus. Rufus started out in 1973, and then they had that 10-year run, and they ended in 1983 for the most part, right? And so what ends up happening is, as I said, Chaka leaves, but she's bouncing from record to record. So let's just see here. In 1978, Rufus releases an album called Street Player. In 1978, Chaka releases her solo album, Chaka. Then in 1979, Rufus releases Numbers. In 1980, Chaka releases the album Naughty. But then Rufus turns around in 1979 and releases another album called Master Jam, right? So from 1978 to 1981, Chaka Khan, we're talking about Chaka Khan. Chaka Khan ends up on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 albums. Do you understand where I'm going with that? The bouncing back and forth, like that had to be a lot to deal with, from one album to the next, promoting Rufus, promoting Chaka. Like that was a lot. And we already know that Chaka Khan talked to us about, having to deal with certain, substances and things like that, in her career. And she has had some stints in rehab. She's talked about that, right? So you got all of that stuff going on at the time. So it's really and truly like a hectic career. But now let's put a pause right there so we can kind of see how all of this stuff is kind of coming together, and it's kind of getting confused when you think about Chaka Khan and her career. So let's stop for a second. So she's the lead singer of the group Rufus. She goes solo in 1978. She's not allowed out of her contract with Rufus. It's my theory that that's the reason why she was not promoted. I gotta feel, this is just me personally, if that Chaka album in 1978 really went multi-platinum, you know what I'm saying? Like sold like 5 million copies or whatever, 10 million copies. You best to believe somebody somewhere on Chaka's team was probably going to be like, we ain't doing it. Mm-mm. So I really truly do get the feel that Chaka could have been released out of her contract with Rufus in a roundabout sort of way, if the powers that be really wanted that to happen. But it was not happening. Okay. So then you get Arif Mardin, who comes in and pretty much hooks Chaka up. He does that. I mean, the guy, I'm here to tell you, he's brilliant to me, simply because of how he was able to really, to me, mimic like the Rufus sound. He had to definitely have a good ear for what Rufus was doing at the time, because he captured that and then some. You understand what I'm saying? So there you are with him, her, and you have this breakout album. And now she's not separated from the Rufus sound, and she's going in and out of Rufus recording. Whew. So that part right there is kind of, to me, like a hindrance of Chaka Khan's career. It's like, yeah, I get the feel that it is. She's not focusing on herself solo. She's not. I think she's trying to appease everyone. Not only that, if you think about it too, I mean, you got to look at the awards and everything that the group was winning at the time, because Tell Me Something Good is they receive a Grammy. Then they also receive a Grammy for Ain't Nobody, right? So they are definitely racking up some awards and some Grammy awards and things like that. Rufus and Chaka Khan, they have some awards, some Grammy awards, so on and so forth. So I mean, that's only a plus as well, right? And of course, then by the time Chaka Khan leaves, you know, she still have some Grammy Awards for some of her albums as well. You know, like Chaka, she's nominated for songs like I'm Every Woman. She's nominated for What You're Gonna Do For Me. Like I Feel For You. She Ain't Nobody. Like Chaka is racking up awards, Grammy Awards as well. But here's the thing that I also found interesting about Chaka's career. Remember when I said she's the queen of funk? So let's stop right there, because that's another layer to Chaka that I think is an issue. Well, you should already know by now that we're going into what? The 1980s. Chaka Khan is pretty much releasing her solo album at the end of the 1970s. So she's definitely influencing a new generation, a new decade, if you will, of divas, because now it's the 1980s. And you know, my theory over here is always, you know what, the executives, they're not smart at all. And when I say they're not smart, not intelligently smart, I'm saying like, hey, this is working right now, so let's get one of these. You understand what I'm saying? That's what I mean. Like they jump on the bandwagon. And I just feel like from an executive standpoint, if you are really and truly an executive, then you can make anything, you know, a success, right? So my thing is that now that Chaka Khan is emerging as a solo diva in the 1980s, she is definitely inspiring a new group of divas during this particular decade. Now, this is just my personal opinion. It doesn't have to be yours. But when I think about divas such as Regina Belle, I think about Vesta Williams, Melissa Morgan, Angela Winbush, so on and so forth. These are divas that I can see that Chaka definitely had some influence on. Now, these divas will probably say they were inspired by other divas, and rightfully so. But I'm talking about as far as how they're singing, the vocal styles, things like that. I'm definitely hearing a lot of Chaka Khan influence in the 1980s, from the beginning all the way up to around the time we get into the middle of the 1980s. Why do I think it stops in the 1980s? Chaka influence on divas is because by the time 1985 rolls around, and even though Chaka Khan is pretty much like at the peak of her success, I believe it's 1984's album I Feel For You comes out, and it's a huge hit for Chaka Khan. There's another diva that's about to emerge, and that would be Whitney Houston. So now that Whitney Houston has come out in 1985, just think about it. Now everybody's on this Whitney Houston phase, and now all of the divas after Whitney Houston are beginning to want to sound like Whitney Houston, because Whitney Houston is like, you know, major, right? And huge and a big deal, you know, definitely mainstream and crossover. So now you don't hear much of a Chaka influence when it comes to these new divas, so on and so forth. So now let's stop there and let's go back to the funk part. I know it sounds like I'm all over the place. You're just going to have to follow me, because that's just how all over the place I feel like Chaka's career, you know, is or has been. Okay, so let's talk about funk. When I found out just now that Chaka Khan is considered the queen of funk, I knew then that Chaka Khan definitely suffered from, well, let's just say she wasn't marketed correctly. All right, if we're talking about she's the queen of funk. Now, is this new? Is this a new title that she's been given, like in the recent years, have people now all of a sudden just say, oh, okay, Chaka, she's the queen of funk. Because whenever I hear Chaka Khan being introduced, it's always just Chaka Khan, right? Not the queen of funk. So if Chaka Khan really is the queen of funk, then I think from here on out, Chaka, went wherever you are, whatever, whatever media outlet you are on at the time or you're being reviewed, I think it's only right for people to call you the queen of funk. All right? Because a person like me, I'm thinking that you're R&B. And I do believe that there's a difference between funk and R&B, right? So now, notice what I said before when I'm talking about Chaka influencing a new decade, a new genre of divas, right? So it's the 1980s, and she's influencing a new wave of divas. So you know how people say, oh, you're in a category all by yourself, and I'm sorry that my eyes are closed, but I'm trying to really think and process this through. So when you think about someone who says that that they are in a category all of their own, tour de force, things like that, and some of those terms are definitely used too much, right? But when you think about it, and she's being considered the queen of funk, her music is definitely funk now that I think about it. So the question becomes then, who do we compare Chaka Khan to? We don't compare Chaka Khan to any divas. When I think about it, we don't. We compare other divas to Chaka Khan, but we don't compare Chaka Khan to other divas. We just don't do that. Who? Think about it. Even when we're talking about other divas, like, like say for instance, the riff tiffs between Natalie Cole and Aretha Franklin, right? We definitely knew that Natalie Cole was coming for Aretha's crown. We knew that, right? We also understand, even when it comes to Patti LaBelle, like Patti LaBelle, she definitely etched out her own line, like she chopped. Listen here, when we're talking about Patti LaBelle definitely, listen, she brought her own, she has her own construction team. Okay, you understand what I'm saying? Like when you're talking about blaze a trail, oh no, she did not blaze a trail. I mean, I'm trying to be mindful of the words that I use, if you understand. But let's just say she destroyed it. You understand what I'm saying? Like she came in and she pushed everything aside and like, she came in like a tornado, a whirlwind. She did. Like, listen, if you can't stand to be around me when I'm singing, you better find something else to do with yourself for that time being, because I'm going to do my thing. That's Patti LaBelle. Do you understand? So much so that other divas did not want to be on the same stage with her, right? It was like, no, I'm not going to be upstage, when it comes to Patti, but this is not Patti's show. All right, this is Chaka Khan's show right now. But do you understand what I'm saying? So even with Patti LaBelle having some back and forth with other divas, so on and so forth, Diana Ross, you know what I'm saying, kind of elbowing the competition, if you understand where I'm going, if you know what I mean when I say Diana Ross elbowing the competition. Just think about the Motown 25. Hey, Diana, I mean, they said you did it, so it's what it is. We love you over here. But when you think about that, so where I'm going with this is that I can't think of anyone. So then it makes me stop and want to go, queen of funk? Well, who are the other funk divas? Do you see where I'm going with this? So now not only do we have an issue with Chaka Khan, if we're calling her the queen of funk, then it makes sense when a person such as myself, when I'm listening to Chaka Khan's albums, because that's what I did. I listened to all those albums from 1978 all the way up to 1992. I just finished listening to them. And I'm like, wait a minute, it makes sense. I keep in my head trying to put Chaka Khan in an R&B category. So that's why I'm saying today that from a marketing standpoint, she was definitely not marketed correctly. Because if you're putting out a funk album and you're trying to make a funk diva into a pop diva, into an R&B diva. You are losing me. And not only that, but then I'm looking back and I'm saying to myself, but wait a minute, Chaka, don't you like jazz? So now you got a little bit of jazz in your catalog. So I'm like, what? Funk, jazz, R&B. Do you see what soul? Like what category of music? Like she's just all over the place. Like not Chaka, so to speak, but I'm just saying as far as a career marketing standpoint, like there's no lane that she's pretty much in and nothing to compare her to. And if you put her in the funk lane, then I'm saying to myself, like rightfully so, if that's what her style of music is and her choice of style of singing is, then the question could be, where's the funk category? Right? Think about it. Where's the funk category? So was there a funk category in these awards, at these award shows? And for her to be called Queen of Funk, like get a category for her. Think about it. You think I'm tripping, but I'm not. Some of you guys might remember when Mickey Howard made the comment that when she won her first Soul Train Music Award, I think it was in 1988. I could be wrong about the year. Could be 1988. Is it 1988? It could have been 1988 or 1989, but I think it's 1988. But anyway, when she won her first Soul Train Music Award, and it was probably like Best New Artist or something like that. And allegedly, according to Mickey, Anita Baker came up to her, congratulated her, and whispered to her ear, in so many words, that's the last one you're going to get. Because that was Anita Baker's, category. And she would always win in that category. So Anita Baker was like, baby, you ain't going to win another one. You ain't going to get, that's my category. Do you understand? Like, so do you see where I'm going? Like, I don't know if Chaka Khan had those kinds of rivalries, with other divas, as far as we in the same lane. There's no other diva in the same line, or is there? And it is what it is. So since we're talking about funk, let's talk about funk for a minute. For those of you who don't know, and I don't know too much about funk, but funk is definitely a genre of music, right? And it originated in the African American communities in the 1960s. And James Brown developed a signature sound that was emphasized with the downbeat, with a heavy emphasis on the first beat of every measure. All right. The one, you understand? You got on the one. Do you understand what I'm saying? Other like psychedelic influenced musicians such as Sly and the Family Stone, as well as Parliament and Funkadelic, they also fostered more of an eclectic example of the genre beginning in the 1960s as well. But think about it. When you think about funk, you think about the 80s. And if you think about the 80s, you think about Kool and the Gang, the Ohio Players, Earth, Wind and Fire, Shalimar. You think about the Gap Band, Lakeside, Zapp and Roger, Confunction, Cameo the Barcades, so on and so forth, right? You think about these funk bands. And Rufus was definitely a funk band. But now we're talking about, let's just say, other singers, so on and so forth. Who are these singers besides Chaka Khan? And what do we consider, what do we say about James Brown is the hardest working man in show business, right? So he's not the king of funk, but you would think he would be the king of funk. But he does not have that title. So could James Brown be considered the king of funk and Chaka Khan the queen of funk? Possibly. It's just throwing things out there. That's the reason why, as I said, I'm bringing this up. Excuse me, you guys. But when we think about other artists in the funk category, I don't think much about other singers, but there are definitely other singers out there who definitely fall into the funk category. Now, one person that came up and I was kind of like, I don't know if I necessarily would call this diva a funk diva, but it probably could be her. And her name is it? I say her name wrong. I pronounce it incorrectly. Michelle Ndegiello Cello. Is it? I'm sorry. It's not funny. It's just I know I am not pronouncing. Michelle Ndegiello Cello was one of the people that came up when I was thinking about other funk possible divas. But I guess where I'm going is that you don't get a lot of them. And of course, you know, you talk about the brand new heavies, right? The brand new heavies, you could consider them to be a funk band, right? But if you think about it, again, where is this category? And if in fact Chaka Khan is the queen of funk and her career is from 1978 as a solo artist all the way up until present day, then you have to stop and say to yourself, all right, she's definitely keeping the funk sound alive, right? So, you know, let's keep funk alive. You understand what I'm saying? So she's definitely doing that, keeping that music alive, where other artists, you know, it's just not a category of music, if you think about it, like that's still around till this day. Whoo, that's just a lot, isn't it, when it's dealing with Chaka Khan and her music? You know, but now let's talk about her albums, okay? Now, when you talk about Chaka Khan's albums, it's unfortunate that some of her albums would be a hit or a miss. Her albums, okay? And from my understanding, and I got this book over here. Do I want to talk about the book? It's over here. Well, let me get the book over here. Sorry. So again, I'm bringing up the Soulful Divas by David Nathan. The Soulful Divas. Okay. Chaka Khan has a chapter in here about Chaka Khan. I know it's in here, but anyway, it doesn't matter if it is or isn't. I find it. Oh, there it is. So this is Chaka Khan's chapter. Now, here's what happens in Chaka Khan's career. Okay, remember when I tell you guys that she's bouncing back and forth from Rufus to Chaka Khan recording? Then she's kind of like, okay, hey, I'm definitely not interested to the point where I'm not even going into the studio to record with them. It is what it is. As Rufus is seeing a decline, Chaka is seeing a decline as well, around by the let's say 1983, right? 1983, Chaka is seeing a decline. Rufus is seeing a decline. Now, it's in this book. This is the reason why I'm bringing it up. So, according to David Nathan's book, Warner Brothers pretty much approaches Chaka Khan and says, listen here, Chaka, your career, listen, we love you over here, but we need like a crossover album. We need that million selling album, that platinum album or what have you, because if we don't get it, you're probably going to be dropped from the record label. Okay. Now, for whatever reason, maybe the planets, the stars, or whatever you want to call them, the music gods decided to look down on Chaka and Rufus yet again, and maybe it was just perfect timing, or maybe it was because both camps' careers were like kind of like almost about to go into, you know, a slope, that they decided, hey, you know, let's put our differences aside, so on and so forth, and they decided to show up, and they showed out with a song called Ain't Nobody. But now get this. I don't know about you, but I'm talking about me. Is it you or is it just me? When I think about the song Ain't Nobody, I'm definitely thinking that it's a Chaka song. I'm not thinking it's Rufus. It doesn't matter. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's definitely, and when I have to look back at the video, but I don't even see Rufus in the video, like trying to think about the video again. I have to go back and look at it, but I don't even think Rufus even shows up in the video. So I'm thinking that it's definitely a Chaka's song. The song was enough to revive both of their careers in the time being. It was enough too for the record labels to look at Chaka like this is possible, it can be done, but everything is riding on this next album. So you definitely need to give us this album. And she delivers. I've never listened to the entire I Feel For You album until I did so this week. And I'm here to tell you it is a good album. So when I think about her albums, let me just say, for instance, um, as I said, I like them all. I like, well, I don't like all, well, I like her albums, but I Feel For You is a good album. Chaka is a good album, and I'm thinking about the other one. Like I'm talking, when I say a good album, I'm talking about I can play from beginning to the end. And I think it's the Naughty album, especially Hot Butterfly. Oh my gosh. Like that entire Naughty album, I love. It's a definite hit for me. So what you're gonna do for me? What you're gonna do for me? I Feel For You, Naughty, and Chaka are my favorite albums by Chaka Khan. But they're there, and they're, for whatever reason, they're deciding that we got to make this work. They make it work. You could tell that they came in with a fresh, they're renewed, they're, refreshed, so on and so forth, and they deliver with Ain't Nobody. Now, here's another thing too that I think is great about this Chaka Khan story at this time, and that is that 1983, 84, 85, and do I have? Is it? Hold on, you guys. Sorry, I'm reaching. Okay. So 1984, 1985. Hey, sometimes I got to break my stuff out, bring it out for you. So 1984, 1985, you guys, Crush Groove, you have Breaking, Beat Street. You see what I'm saying? you have these movies, out. And I think the good part about everything is the fact that now we have these we have these movies that are based off, music and entertainment, and we are loving it so much so that we actually get to see it, in movie form. We already see it in, video form, in the form of, cassettes or compact discs. But now we get to see, urban music, if you will, Black music, if you will, African American music, if you will. We get to see it now. And it goes into a lot of homes. But the thing about it is, it's kind of like Soul Train. What Soul Train did or was doing is what these movies started to do, and that is to put these artists out into the forefront again for us to see them, for those of us who were not able to get to those shows and things like that. And so it only worked for Chaka Khan, right? It worked for her. So now with I Feel For You, it's definitely the sound of the time. It's still, I guess you want to call it, in that funk type style, right? The I Feel For You album is definitely in that funk type style of music. But again, it's Chaka dealing with pop music as well as of course R&B music. So I love it. It's just definitely a great album. A lot of electro type style of music on that album as well. I'm sorry, something got my attention. But then there's something that happens with Chaka's career, and I'm saying to myself, like, wait a minute, Chaka. Wait a minute. I didn't catch it until I started watching the I Feel For You video. And not only the I Feel For You video, there's another video that I watched. It's called, what is the name of that song? Love of a Lifetime. Is it Love of a Lifetime? I think it's Love of a Lifetime. So when I think about the I Feel For You video and Love of a Lifetime video, and I think about this era of music, in what year is that again? Is it 1984? 1985 for Crush Groove. 1985 for Crush Groove. Y'all, excuse me, these eyes of mine are not what they used to be. Oh, Lord, I can't see the year. But let's just say 1985. So if this is 1985, this is probably what, 1984? Or maybe the same year. I see a year. Oh, God. I'm going to say that's 1984. I can't see. 1984, 1985. And then I'm thinking about Chaka's image and how she is being, I guess, her new look, if you will. And so as I'm thinking about it, I don't know about you guys, but something bobs to the surface and I go, okay. I go, Cyndi Lauper, and I don't know why. It looks like this is the time, obviously, that they are definitely trying to rework Chaka's image, like how, I guess she's styled, how she looks, so on and so forth. And to me, the only thing I can think of when I'm saying that I can't compare Chaka Khan to any divas at all out there, like I don't see it. But I find myself thinking Cyndi Lauper. I don't know why until I see the dress. It's kind of whimsical, type of style. And I'm saying to myself, like, okay, it is what it is. It's Cyndi Lauper, and I think they're definitely trying to get a Cyndi Lauper out of Chaka Khan for the time being. And well, I guess you could say it worked for a minute, but then it's kind of like, I don't know, because we see Chaka Khan, and I think that that's the issue. We see Chaka Khan as an R&B diva, not even a funk diva. That's how we see her. But it's like the sound she gives us, okay, it's funk and R&B, disco, soul, but let's just say it's funk, right? And every now and then we can count on her for a good R&B song, right? That's the music. Because of the culture, I look at Chaka Khan and I say, oh, she's an R&B diva. Do you see where I'm going? Then over here, she's been called the queen of funk. I'm confused. And I think that that's what has happened in Chaka's career. The reason why we don't get Chaka, like the reason why we don't put her in that category. And of other divas like Aretha Franklin, Patti LaBelle, Natalie Cole, Whitney Houston. Like, and here's what I'm saying: you're going to miss it if you're thinking that I'm saying she's not. I'm not saying she's not. Chaka is definitely a diva to be reckoned with vocally. We understand that. But that's the issue. It's like we hear the voice and that's it. Bad marketing. Bad marketing. Yeah, bad marketing is where I'm going with this Chaka Khan story in my head, And I don't think that it cannot be undone, right? I feel as if Chaka Khan's career can definitely take a good steering in the right direction if now her team, her people decide, wait a minute, let's see here. There might be something to this that we probably need to kind of focus how do we want Chaka Khan legacy to be remembered, right? Yeah. how do we want Chaka Khan's legacy to be remembered? I think it's what Chaka and her team at this moment in time really need to, discuss. And for me, I think it's okay. It's perfectly okay if Chaka Khan say, that R&B thing, I appreciate you guys for saying that I'm R&B, hey, that's the fabric of music. But yeah, I am funk. And unfortunately, people have not looked at me as a funk diva. But that's who I am. That's what I do. And if I am the only diva at this moment in time singing funk music and continuing to perform funk music, then it is what it is. I'm keeping the funk alive. And I think that would be probably even a good title for our next album. The other one was called, see, I love it how it comes together. The other album was called Funk This. You see how we get little elements and kind of look clues of who she is, but it's never just really served up on that platter that it needs to be served up on. So yeah, so Funk This, now keep funk alive. Like, funk and nothing but the funk, right? I don't know why that came to my mind. I'm thinking about Rick James and the Temptations when he said, "We want the funk and nothing else would do." Right? So now that I'm thinking about it, I'm thinking about all of this funk sound. But then again, now that I think about it, I don't know about back in the day, but I can't even recall Chaka Khan even being put in the same category as these other artists. And now I have a question, because I have not followed Chaka Khan's career like that. Has Chaka Khan ever been out on a tour with like Kool in the Game, the Gap Band, so on and so forth? Was she a part of this? And she could very well be. But again, I'm going back into that same category because these artists kind of have fallen by the wayside. I'm pretty sure some of them are still performing today. But, as I said, Chaka Khan is, it's all over the place to me. So anyway, have I covered everything that I wanted to cover with Chaka Khan? Probably not, but I do know that I got enough out there just to give you guys some idea of what I'm thinking about Chaka Khan. So wrapping this all the way up, if you will, again, Chaka Khan is definitely the queen of funk, not R&B. She sings it every now and then. Pop, she sings it every now and then. It seems as if the record companies wanted her to be more pop and have that crossover success. And I think that that's how they mismanaged her career, trying to put her in that particular category of music. But then again, too, Chaka Khan's career has also, been one where she's been very vocal about things, but very vocal about, well, again, I'm not doing this, I'm not doing that, I'll do this, I won't do that. Of course, the substance issues, so on and so forth. I think, as I said, Aretha Martin, he kept her within that same sound as Rufus, which now is kind of like she continued with Rufus, even though she left Rufus. It still seems like to me that, Chaka did not break away from the Rufus sound to me until she got to the album I Feel For You. And I think that will be the album where you can say, okay, this is Chaka with her identity. This is who she is. But it is what it is. Tell me what you think. It is what it is. Woo! Okay. An hour. I thought it was going to be longer. Wasn't long at all. Well, anyway, if you made it this far into the video, I think it's only appropriate for me to say, hey, listen here, you guys. Hang out with me. Hit that like button, that subscribe button, leave a comment. Thank you guys so much for your support. And if you continue to come over here and you have not hit that like button, the like button, but if you haven't hit the subscribe button, do so. At this moment in time, everybody who watches YouTube or who has a channel, we already know what this is all about. It's all about the clicks, the views, the comments, so on and so forth. It's what it is about. If you want to see more of the content that I do and more of the content that's similar to what I do, it is what it is. You got to hit those buttons and all that stuff, because supporting me, you're supporting somebody else's channel as well, because all of that stuff is coming up to the forefront. It is what it is. You understand, these algorithms and these social media streets by now. You should. But anyway, my motto over here is simple. That's right. Put your behind where your heart desires to be. And whenever I leave my mother's presence, she always says to me, she says, baby, remember, I love you, but God loves you best. I look forward to seeing you next video. And until then, you should know what to do by now. If you're not doing it, why haven't you started? Taking care of you. That's right. Take care of yourselves out there. All right. Talk to you later.